Okay, Steele Sidebottom. Steele Sidebottom. This is a safe place, champs.
It's well, definitely did not have a game of a lifetime on the weekend. I think it was like 4 disposals.
Hey, my heart is, bro. I'm like having palpitations just thinking about Steele Sidebottom and VFL being in the same sentence. Champs, we're here for episode 3 of the Pies Eyes podcast. We made it past episode 2. The viewers want us back, at least for now. Let's get stuck into the first topic. And obviously, it's going to revolve around the Anzac Day game. What a game it was, but a little bit of a somber feeling regarding that draw. And I think we've both got a bone to pick. What do you think about the draw in the home and away season, champs?
Yeah, so with the draw, I think they definitely need to add an extra time period, just like they do in the finals. So in the finals, they have 2 extra periods that are going to be played. And then obviously, if it's a draw at the end of that, 2 extra halves, then they'll go into a golden point scenario. So obviously, we need to do something that, go in a home and away season. When you go away, you kind of, leave them in your house as we watched the game too. There was kind of not satisfied with the draw. Like it was kind of like ominous. Like it was just like, what are we doing here? Like, yeah. Then also driving on the way home, I was listening to 3AW and they posed the question as well. And I feel like a lot of callers were, calling up and saying they would like to see the extra time in the home and away season. And, kind of just, 2 points awarded can really affect the table at the end of the year. It can go against us. It could go for us. But I think it's just, for the feeling at the end of the game, I definitely think extra time needs to be added.
Okay. I want to play as devil's advocate, champ, but I am on your side. But I want to throw a spanner in the works. So we know, obviously, soccer, they have the draw, right? Do you think it's different because the draw is so frequent and I'm sort of giving you I feel like maybe I'm giving you the answer here, but is it because the draws are so frequent in soccer that it's more accepted within the culture versus AFL? Like you said, it's 2 points and it's very rarely that a team ends up with a draw. So there is it slightly skews the table at the end of the season, and it may work or may not work to your advantage. Whereas, like I said, in soccer, everyone draws. In every round of soccer, there's at least one draw in the league. So, do you think, people might say, yeah, with soccer, there's a draw. So why does it matter if there's the draw? The draw is possible in the home and away season for footy.
Yeah, I think kind of 2 different sports, right? I think it'd really elevate the game having a home and away season. Like you kind of put it on the NBA, right? It doesn't happen too often. But when you see it goes into overtime, like, you see those overtime games in the home and away season, but also in the playoff series, how just that game gets elevated to that next level of excitement, right? I think that can really be brought into the AFL. And if we could able to do that, imagine like the eyes, the viewership. Imagine that was your first time watching a game. You got someone from America coming over, watching their first game, and, you can see an extra time home and away thing. I think that could just bring it to the next level.
Yeah. I think I agree with you on the basis, exactly right, that soccer it happens much more frequently, and we compare it more like to the entertainment that is within the NBA. The obviously draws at the end of the NBA games are infrequent, so when there is a draw, they just go, cool, let's go extra time. And yeah, even for me, like when I'm scrolling through my YouTube feed and I'm watching NBA highlights, when I see overtime in the highlights or in the thumbnail, actually obviously G's me up. So I'm probably more likely to watch that than I am to watch like a four quarter game. Like I want to see, was there a buzzer beater at the end that took it to extra time? What happened in extra time? So I'm definitely on the side of that. I do have one more question for you. You did mention in the final series there's 2 extra quarters, 5 minutes each way.
Yeah.
Would you go that way in the home and away season as well?
Well, yeah, I think you'd have to do for consistency standpoint, because if what you do in the finals, you should probably do in the home and away season. But yeah, I think just keep it consistent.
Okay, and if you could have it your way, if you were the commissioner of the AFL, would you change that for the finals and the home and away season as far as the duration and the amount of quarters for extra time?
Look, my initial thought would be, why don't we just have 5 minutes, one half, like one way, and then if it's locked in, then do it kind of like how the NBA does it. I think that's a really an effective way. And then like imagine like the clickbait or like the highlights, and you can say second overtime. I think that's would be the preference, because you think about 10 minutes extra in a game, you know, for not only for that game, but for your recovery period for the next game can really extend that out. So,
sure.
you know, I would like to see 5 minutes in the home and away season, but I think as a consistency standpoint, what you do in the finals, you should do in the home and away season.
Yeah. How'd you manage handling that? That wasn't too bad. I wasn't pressing you too hard, Chance.
No, it wasn't too bad. It wasn't too bad.
No, all good answers, and I completely agree with all of them. So, but we know, man, like there's a lot of red tape that exists in this world, like a lot of bureaucracy. So I think even if those ideas were to come to fruition, it's not something that happens straight away. Like when Collingwood had that drawn grand final in 2010, it took a while for the AFL, I think. And viewers maybe let me know if I'm wrong, but it took them at least a couple of years to decide, okay, if there is a drawn grand final, we're not going to bloody play it the next week. We're going to go to overtime. Yeah. From memory, it took a while for them to get their heads around that. So I could imagine with these suggestions regarding extra time in the regular season might not happen next year just because of the bureaucracy behind it all. And you've seen it this year with the umpires, is that the goal umpires are so indecisive right now that they're not making decisions based on their instinct and based on what they're seeing. They're going to the goal reviews. And what a lot of people are suggesting right now, champs, is that just call the goal or the behind for what you see it. And then as they're going back to the middle, because they have a minute to set up and whatnot, why can't the reviewers do that while the ball's going back to the middle? Instead, the goal umpires are consistently basically putting the celebrations to a halt because they're more indecisive than ever. And then by the time the decision comes about, the celebrations are dampened. Like imagine kicking your first goal as an AFL player and it gets put to review because the goal umpire is scared to make the wrong decision. Like we're so risk averse now when it comes to that.
Yeah, I think like the only issue with that is if they call it a goal and it's behind, does the ball then travel back for a kick out? And then you've got everyone who's in that forward half. And if they're doing a zone or whatever, how they set up, have they already run back to their positions? Like, I think it would be just a bit clunky if that was to happen.
Yeah. Fair enough, brother. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay. That was not on our timesheet for the podcast. That sort of just sprung to mind. So just some food for thought there. But the next topic that we wanted to talk about was, are the AFL elites conspiring against Collingwood regarding the dodgy fixturing this year?
Look, I'll leave this one to you first because we did have a kind of a chat of this on Thursday, but I'll add my 2 cents after. So.
It's been no secret. It's been horrible. It's been a treacherous run for Collingwood with regards to the starting fixture. I mean, we've been to Adelaide. We've already been to Adelaide for gather round. We've been to Sydney. We've been to Brisbane, and I may have forgotten one more time where we've travelled interstate. Maybe we went to Adelaide twice, but it's also the short span of time that Collingwood have is in regards to their rest time leading up to the next game. And just going from Port Adelaide at the G on a Saturday, we roll after our bye, that's great, but then we roll right back into a 5-day break against Essendon in an Anzac Day clash, which is arguably or is the biggest home and away clash that exists on the fixture since its inception back in 1995. That's how you know I'm starting to become a footy nuffy champ when I know those little stats. But we move. So what's the go? Like obviously, you dealt the cart, the hand that you've been given. But at which point does a club like Collingwood stand up and say this just isn't good enough? Like I feel like they're taking advantage of such a big club for what they're able to reel in for the AFL. And at what point is it just, for lack of a better word term, what point does it look like they're just taking advantage of a big club? We're talking cash champs. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's tough on like, look, just go back to that round zero stuff. Like we win the flag and then we do the unveil the next week in the traditional round one. Like after we get pumps, it puts a whole damper on the experience. So like that's I'm gonna say BS number one. All right. And then obviously the short lead times, like I think there was a shorter lead time bar in that 5-day one. I think we had even a shorter one, but that obviously you got to think about the guys play interstate or wherever they're playing, and then they got to recover with the problems that we're having earlier on. Can't really implement that at training with such short lead times. So yeah, there's a myriad of things of the fixture. You just hopefully back in the back end of the season we have more breaks, but we know they love putting us at prime time positions and trying to get as much eyes on a Collingwood game as possible. But yeah, it's just really, really interesting and kind of obscure the fixture at the start of the season.
Yeah, it doesn't help our oldies. We are the second oldest club in the nation. So you'd think maybe the AFL give us some leeway and give the old fellas some rest if they really want to see some good positive Collingwood performances. But despite all of that, Collingwood have still managed to go 3-3 and 1 draw. And I think that's decent considering the fixturing and considering, you win the grand final, you have you come back to preseason late, and then you dealt with that shit show of a fixture, and then you're 3-3 and 1. I take that as a Collingwood supporter thus far, and I think we can build on that moving forward. All right, topic 3, the revolution of the Checkside kick regarding players like Bobby Hill and Nick Dacos. Is it good or bad?
Look, I love it when it pays off. Like, you got Nick Dacos doing that little Checkside kick. It looks unreal. And just being able to, use your preferred foot, but still kind of hit an angle where you traditionally would use your left foot. I think it's quite a unique skill. And I think, you're going to start seeing that more come through grassroots levels because people are seeing Nick Dacos, Bobby Hill using that. And I think it's going to look, it's just going to be a skill that's going to be developed even more going forward, right? The issue is people not knowing their skill at the moment. I think I forgot who it was. I think it was one of our defenders tried to check side kick, and then it was a turnover. I remember it distinctively a couple of weeks ago, and I'm like, "You're not that guy, pal. You're not him, right?" So I think, well, that's a skill that's going to be taken. I know they're elite players, but it's still a very hard skill to hit. So I think you got to leave that for those elite ball users to use as an option. Like I know, just talking about myself, I don't have a left foot, so that's something I'm trying to implement in my game of trying to utilize his check side kick. But I'm not going to try and implement that in the game just yet, right? Just try practice at training. So I just think, it's just a skill. People are going to get better at it at grassroots level. I'm going to see in 10 years' time, I reckon a lot of people will be using that more than a left side, left foot or opposite foot. So yeah, I think it's going to be a new skill to the game, which makes it really, really exciting.
Yeah, I do know who has a really good left foot, champs. I think I'm going to use that inside joke as much as possible, and that's the running theme of this podcast, where Caleb didn't know Pendle's left foot was his preferred foot. Anyways, I'll leave that one to side because you make some good points. The defender that you were talking about was Oleg Markov from memory, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's bang on.
Yeah. So, and you know what, champs, the check side kick, it's like a pen license. You know what I mean? Like, go back to primary
I never
school.
got one. Never got one.
Hey, I mean, it is what it is, and that's how it should be. I think Fly McRae should genuinely write up a check side license and say, "Here, mate, there's your check side license for the game. Use it as you wish." And in the check side kick, I feel like it's come into vogue really quickly. Like it sort of just bursted onto the scene, particularly in the last 2 seasons. I think it's mainly probably to do with players like Nick Dacos, who really showcased it last year. And what I like about that check side kick for players like Nick Dacos, if they have their check side kicking license, is I feel like within a contest, you're going to be able to get the ball to your boot quicker if you're kicking on your right side. albeit a checkside kick, versus using your opposite foot with your opposite hand. There's obviously a bit of a hand-eye coordination discrepancy between left and right. So in the stoppage clearances where Dacos likes to use it a lot in the inside 50, for example, it's much easier for him just to put it on the boot with his right hand and right foot, kicking a checkside kick. And you just work the angles, right? Like, obviously, you just got to kick it a little bit different and aim for it in a different manner when you're kicking it. But segueing that into another question regarding this matter is having like an opposite foot, if we're talking FIFA terms, is having a 4-star weak foot at 4-star out of 5 stars like a lost art in the AFL right now?
Well, yeah, I think it is. Like, having a left foot or like just your opposite foot in general is a vital skill. I think there's some angles you have to do to obviously accommodate. Like if I'm a right-footed player running, left down the wing out of a contest and I scoop the ball up and then have to just jam it on my foot, obviously you'd want that skill to use your opposite foot, your left foot there. And you can really get angles, right? Like, you see it a lot with guys who just have a predominant right foot. They will either have to stop or try change the angle of the kick to accommodate that. If not, they're just slamming it on the boot, right? So I think it is a little bit of a lost art, and Pendle's the best at it with his left foot, darting the ball around. But no, just like guys using their opposite foot, it just opens up so many angles that a traditional just one-footed player can do. It sounded a bit fumbly, but yeah.
Yeah, brother, you didn't fumble the bag there. It's all good. But I think Lipinski tried to hit like a slider kick, which is like you're kicking off the side of your preferred foot to get a different angle look into the kick that they're trying to make, and he completely it actually slid off his foot and didn't get any registration with the kick on the wing under pressure where he could have used his left foot. And I think Maynard is like he's like a known, I guess, repeat criminal when it comes to not having an opposite foot. He's always looking, like you said, he's with his left foot. If he doesn't have the angle or the opportunity to kick on his left, he'll try deviate so that he can find his left foot. And by the time he gets there, either the option that was available is now closed or he gets shut down. So I think it is a lost art, and I think people need to bear in mind, while Nick Dacos and Bobby Hill are amazing with their check side kick, they also are really good on their opposite side, particularly Nick Dacos. So people need to remember that. Like, master the basics first, tick those boxes, and then you can add that check side kick, because it's still a high degree of difficulty to hit those check side kicks, like we saw how Bobby Hill did when he kicked it to Jamie Elliott going inside 50. Like, that was just perfect, ridiculous. Like, the weight of the ball, the speed, all those variables were just like, I don't know if you could hit that kick again. Maybe you could, but it was that good. You just need to bear in mind that to get there, you got to tick some boxes off. Hit your Oz kicks first and get everything right. Get your check side kick license, and then we'll go from there. Okay. Steele Sidebottom. Steele Sidebottom. This is a safe place, champs. Safe place.
It's well, definitely did not have a game of a lifetime on the weekend. I think it was like 4 disposals. So yeah, look, obviously he's down on his career, right? He's averaging only 14 disposals a game. Last year he averaged about 21 disposals. So obviously he's down from last year. As I think we talked about it last podcast, what do you do with these senior players? I think can't really write him off just yet, but I think you got to have those type of discussions. Does he get dropped? What do we do with him? I think maybe give him one more week, see how he bounces back. Someone like that, and he would know he probably didn't have a good game, but you'd hope from such a senior player he would come back, and try to mend his mistakes from the week before. Or not really mistakes, just try to work his way into the game, right? So you'd hope the next game we have, I think it's in eight days' time, from the Essendon game, he's going to really have time to get his body right, those older guys need a little bit longer time to recover as well, right? We just talked about the 5-day recovery. He's getting a bit older. Maybe that could have something to do with it. But like I said, hopefully he'd come back, bounce back. If not, I think we could see him in the emergency side, as emergency sub, or even in the VFL.
Yeah. So I hear a bit of heart, I hear a bit of brain from you, but I want to hear you live vicariously through Fly McRae. What are you doing with Sidebottom this weekend, champ? What are you doing?
What am I doing? I'm telling him to fuck off. You're going to the VFL. Nah. Look, like I said, I think I'm going to. I'm definitely going to be looking. Well, Che, that's a hard one because he's got a soft spot in my heart, man. He's got a soft spot, but I actually think you might have to put him as the emergency sub for the week. Is what I'm thinking.
Yeah,
but because it's either he's starting and he gets subbed off if he's not performing. That's something I'd actually probably consider. Maybe get him in, see how he bounces back because he's still got that bull in him. But yeah, I think start him, doesn't perform, pull him off, and then drop to the VFL after that.
So start, sub, or VFL? Obviously not VFL, you said, but start or sub?
I think, but I'm flipping flopping, man. I just my heart
I
wants
can hear
to
it.
be
I
inside,
can hear
right?
it, bro.
It's like, but my brain's telling me he needs to come in as an ejection sub, maybe 3, because this is the point, right? Like if he's older and is a little bit down on fitness, not as quick as he was in his past prime years, then putting him in the third quarter while everyone's a little bit depleted energy wise, he can really bring that spark into the game, and then he could get up and about himself, about getting touches and this and that. Right, could do good for confidence. So that's what my brain's telling me. My heart's telling me he should start. If I'm going for a brain point of view, then he's going to sub. It's a very long-winded answer. What are you doing, champs? What's your thoughts?
He's going to the VFL, man.
Yeah,
going to the VFL. Hey, my heart is, bro. I'm like having palpitations just thinking about Steele Sidebottom and VFL being in the same sentence. But the other issue is we've got players knocking on the door for selection. Finlay McRae, Harvey Harrison came on, kicked the goal. You can't ask anything more from what he's done for the team in that moment where he snapped that goal. And there's a couple other players that are obviously flirting with contention to play in the ones, Lockie Sullivan as well. So as much as I love Steele Sidebottom and as much as he has played a significant imprint in my childhood life and young adulthood, Steele Sidebottom is playing in the VFL on Friday or whenever they play, but he's not playing against Carlton in AFL, I think.
Mate, you're going to have people rocking up to your house, man.
I don't blame them, brother. But
yeah,
somebody's going to speak the truth.
So would you even have him as the emergency sub? Would you even have him as that or not? Galanita, straight to the VFL.
Good night. Good night.
Yeah?
Good night to Steele Sidebottom. But in saying that, if Collingwood were to make another grand final this year, Sidebottom will still be in that team. It's just like a little, hey, Sidey, like, come on, man, like, have a break, VFL, let the young players have a little feel at AFL level, and you'll come back in the final series or maybe before that, and we'll get you another premiership medal dangling around your neck before you sail off into the sunset with Pendles, Howie, and all those blokes. Man, that's tough. That is tough. So we're going to move on from that because I don't want to talk crazy like that about Sidebottom, man. If I speak, I'm in big trouble, which I'm probably already am in big trouble. All right, this is a sort of relevant and pertinent to the situation regarding Sidebottom. Actually, just quickly, Sidebottom, they even played him through the middle. That's how desperate they got to get Sidebottom involved, and it still didn't work. So it's not like Fly didn't, throw around the magnets to try and get Sidebottom involved. So it was really a really good coaching play, in my opinion, to try and get Sidebottom involved, even if it was just for a couple of centre bounce attendances. It was late in the game. It didn't work. But is it time? Sorry, go on.
Oh, no, sorry, James, cut you off. But I think when they did try that, we got dominated, out of the clearances, right? So, yeah, that's just something to add as well. like who we have in our middle, and I think you might be asking a question like, where does Bo McCreary come in to the midfield? And when that happens, like if we're getting on top of, what happens then, right? Because I feel like those instances like when we didn't have our core midfielders in, we were getting dominated. So it's something to note moving forward is maybe we do an analysis on how many we win with X amount of players in versus, when we've got our like resting mids or secondary midfield starters into the centre bouncers. Because, I think obviously when we've got our starters in, we're winning a lot of clearances. But then when we start moving Magnus around, having Sidey in there, I think it goes the other way. So we're definitely going to be something to watch and monitor, especially in the next game.
Yeah. I'm sure the coaches they'll have those numbers thanks to their like analysis, not me, but they are. Yeah, I feel like it's a type of situation where instead of bringing if Fly isn't so desperate to get Sidebottom into the middle to get him involved, maybe in another parallel universe, that's Bo McCreary going in. And then we really get to see whether Bo McCreary is primed for the big moments in the midfield, because he was trialed as that in the preseason. Scott Selwood said we're going to try him throughout the season in the midfield. It hasn't happened yet. I don't think we've seen him present for a centre bounce attendance just yet. And when Jordan De Goey is he got towed up against Jake Stringer. Jake Stringer had an amazing game, not only in the forward line but in the middle. That's I feel like that's the moment where you go like for like. You go Bo McCreary into the middle, Jordy De Goey, go forward, get some opportunities going forward, and see how that goes. So that's the issue with having such a devotion to players like Sidebottom. I think Bo McCreary is deprived of that opportunity because we just wanted Sidebottom to get involved, but it was probably not the right move in the end. Another controversial topic, and I put it to my Instagram viewers, and the question was Kyle Langford robbed? And also, is it just another midfielder's medal because Zach Merritt won in the end? And before you guys come at me, if there's any Essendon supporters, any general AFL supporters watching the podcast, Merritt had an amazing game. Great two-way runner, very clean with his ball use, wears his heart on his sleeve, and really embodies what Essendon are trying to become. But Kyle Langford didn't lose a one-on-one. He was super strong overhead. He kicked important goals. Yes, he missed the last goal, the set shot in front of goal. But I just think the impact he had going forward, revving up the team, is sort of just outweighs what Zach Merritt was able to provide for Essendon. What do you think?
Yeah, I kind of echo those comments as well. Like, I think if you take out like that opportunity that he missed, right? Let's say someone else was kicking it. Does he win it then? And I think he does, because I think it was really impactful, right? Like, let's say Peter Wright was having that set shot and he missed, and then Langford still had his 4 goals, 14 disposals. I think he wins that medal. I think because he missed that shot at the end, the selectors obviously kind of reading him off for the Anzac medal. But I think his impacts throughout the game, he kind of killed us. So I thought, he was very, very impactful on the game, and definitely thought he was BOG on ground for both teams. I think, Merritt was a good option as well. I thought Collingwood was a better overall like team standard, but I don't think anyone was, dazzling in this, numbers wise, you know what I mean? Or like the, passing the eye test. I think it was a lot of Essendon players. So my stance would be Langford still.
Yeah, and this is coming from Collingwood supporters, right? We're not Essendon supporters or anything like that. So we're looking at through an objective lens. As a Collingwood supporter, we felt like Kyle Langford took it to all the defenders in that Collingwood back six and just had his cake and some more against all the opposition defenders that he had to line up against. So, and just regarding that poll they put up, of the 200 voters, it was 50-50. So we can see there's a bit of a divide in what people or how people interpreted the performances of the games and how much of an impact it had. So it is obviously a topical discussion. So it's not going to be, I don't expect everyone to agree, but that's our food for thought regarding that one.
Yeah, just let us know in the comments what your opinion is.
Yes, get involved. Get involved. Merch. Bad juju or not, champs? Because we've had some run-ins with the merch for good, for best and worst in the last 5 to 10 years. What's our take on it?
Look, I think, so a little bit of backstory, guys. You know, Anthony and I obviously been mates for a lot of years, right? And we had this thing where we used to rock up. I think it was definitely during COVID when we started to get a little bit more money working, and we're buying more merch, right? And as you can see, all my merch is from, I think they ran out of COVID 2020 season, right? And there's a reason why for that is because every time we'd watch a game, we'd put our merch on and we would lose, right? I then being a little bit, superstitious, we one game didn't wear our merch together, didn't watch the game together, actually, because we were watching a lot of games together at this point, and we won. So what we did was, obviously, no more merch is a rule with us. And then also, we were kind of got rid of it, but we weren't watching games together for a little bit of time, and it seemed to be working for us. So I think there is a little bit of juju out there. That being said, I did wear the merch on Thursday, and we were getting pumped in that first 4 minutes. I didn't have the hoodie on. I put the hoodie on, the game starts swinging back the other way. So maybe new year, new set of juju rules. I'm not too sure, but
Yeah,
I definitely those previous 3-4 years, it's just something in the air when we're together wearing merch. It just doesn't work, right? I feel like every player or just people in general have their own superstitions. So we'd love to hear what you guys in the comments if you have any. Like pre-game ritual for myself, for example, I like to take my dog for a walk, I eat a light breakfast. That's something that I've been doing this year. It's been working well for me. So I'm just going to keep rolling that. So people do get quite superstition, especially towards like sports. It's a weird thing, don't you reckon, champs? Like, you might not believe in juju and all that stuff, but when it comes to sport and like there's a clear winner or loser, and there will always be a clear winner or loser when the AFL decide to do extra time in the home and away season because they've listened to this podcast. But yeah, you know what I mean, Chase? But like, yeah, people just get all superstitious and things like that. So yeah, I definitely think there's some juju going around, and you kind of do your best for it, right?
Yes, and I remember demanding that Caleb put on that jumper because we were getting spanked that first 5 minutes, as we alluded to. So look, it seems to work, and superstitions are always it's always a fluid thing in the sense that if something new works or something that used to not work starts to work, well, we're gonna have to implement that into the next game. And while Fly McRae's flipping magnets, we're flipping jumpers and putting on the Collingwood one when we're down by 5 goals. So I think we have a bit of a role to play within these games itself. It's a game within a game, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly right.
Game's a game,
it's
man.
funny, right? Because like at the end of the day, we've got no effect on how the players play, right? Like we've zero at home. You know what I mean? But do we? That's the point. You know what I mean? Like, so I would love to hear what you guys do. I reckon it'll be an interesting. I reckon there'll be a few weird ones out there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. A few more topics. I think we're rolling pretty well at the moment, so we'll keep it going. I'm going to go 2 more AFL topics, and then we'll get into some VFL stuff. Jordan De Goey, from memory, listening to Hoyne on SEN. I think he runs the whole champion data kerfuffle, but he came out and pointed to Jordan De Goey being the second worst rated kick in the AFL. I can't remember if that is for all midfielders or for the whole league, but it was one or the other. He's also averaging a turnover every 4.5 disposals, along with his poor kicking efficiencies, effective disposals, etc., etc. Is that cause for concern, or is that just a little glitch in the matrix, a small sample size? The variables that we talked about, is it the fixturing? Is it the starting late after finals, a premiership flag? Is it complacency of winning the flag and going into the season a bit easier? What is it? What do we think it could be?
Well, yeah, I would definitely love to hear what the the actual stat was. Like if this is the worst midfielder or second worst in the AFL, I think watching, I don't really see. Like that's an interesting stat, right? Like I feel like he does pass the eye test pretty well, but yeah, maybe when he's just booting it out forward, out of the stoppage, like you can see sometimes we just jam it on our boot and can result in a lot of intercept turnovers, which
Do
we
you remember
talked
when he
about.
broke Pendlebury's rib in
Yeah,
Hawthorn, the Hawthorn game?
yeah,
As our
yeah,
captain,
yeah.
man.
True, but like, yeah, I don't know, champs. I think I wouldn't really cause it cause for concern because obviously he's still tearing it up in the midfield, right? And we're still, last 3 games getting wins on the board. I don't think it's a panic station, right? Like you see Tim Taranto a few years ago, disposal efficiency was in the fucking bin, like really, really bad. Like I've written him off, even though he was getting like 30 plus disposals a game, his disposal efficiency was through the bin and he turns it around that year. So if that is the case, then obviously the Goey can do the same, right? So I think that's a good case study there. And we'll just have to monitor it going into the next game and so on.
Yeah, look, his last 3 games have been really good. His pressure, effort, he's starting to impact the scoreboard a little bit more. His efficiency with his kick has been off, but I think we know what De Goey is capable of. We know what he's brought to the club. We know what he does typically on a regular basis. So more just of an earmark. Maybe we can revisit this in 2 weeks. And then if he's still trending that way, then we need to be concerned because something's obviously not right. But right now, I mean, we've played 7 games, or that's 1/3 of the season. Now we're starting to get into crucial territory where we need to be winning games and we need to start getting a bit of rhythm within our players. So we'll earmark it. We'll come back to it in 2 weeks' time. This last AFL topic revolves around Dan McStay. And I think this comes from David Zeta, but he is rumoured to make a return in July. And champs, while you tell me what you think about that from an ACL recovery standpoint and everything else in between, I'm just going to quickly fact check that regarding Dan McStay potentially returning in July.
Would be huge, wouldn't it? Definitely be huge if he comes back. Look, I feel like, yeah, I don't know. It'd be interesting. I don't think. I would hate to see him go out there and rush coming back, right? Obviously, you'd leave it to the medical staff and the physio work that he's getting done. They'll probably be the best in Australia, right? So there is a possibility of him coming back, but we've seen it in the past when guys rush back from ACLs. It's not one of those injuries that you can really afford to rush back on because it is an occurrence to happen again, right? It would be definitely interesting one to see. We're kind of, in a sense, not to knock down McStay. He's not the most explosive player. So, if you're real explosive, agile players doing ACL, you're probably a little bit more inclined to do an ACL again. So that could favor on his side. But yeah, I would love to see him back inside, but yeah, not rushing back. What do you reckon?
Yeah. So that rumor was from my dad. My dad said he heard that David Zeta said that about Dan McStay. I can't quite find it. I don't have the resources right now to look into it. But we're going to roll with it, and we'll paint it as a hypothetical because we know there's going to be people in the Collingwood helm that want McStay back as soon as possible, and there's going to be people who are a bit more risk averse and willing to err on the side of caution and keep him out for the latter end of what an ACL recovery is expected to be. Because if he comes back in July/August, we're looking at an 8 to 9 month recovery return to play timeline, which is quick. And we've seen some players do that. But obviously the risk versus reward, what are we looking at? How important is it that we get a key tall forward back in our forward line? That's obviously a giant. I think McStay's like 6'5" or 6'6". Yeah, what burden does he take off someone like Brody Myercheck? I think our game this year has actually largely revolved around forward half pressure and turnovers, scores from turnovers, which isn't a big part of our identity as far as last season was concerned. It was a lot of defensive half transition, which we found more against Essendon. We were actually one of the lower ranked teams in the league when it comes to building up in transition from the defensive half. Our game has mainly molded around forward half turnovers this year. In that forward half turnover game, when there's repeat inside 50s, maybe that's where McStay is really handy because there's not a lot of, I guess, space. It's congested already. That's where McStay would be really, I guess, a valuable asset for the team. But if we can start to string together what Collingwood were able to do last year in bits and pieces with the transition from end to end, that's where the small forwards and medium-sized forwards get to work and actually just lead out the back and get easy marks running into the goal. That's obviously the more contemporary style of footy. Leading up to the ball is still like important, but generally speaking, and you would know this, Caleb, obviously still playing footy. A lot of players in transition will lead back to goals because the worst position or the worst, I guess, position for a defender is to be running back to goal while trying to defend their attacker. And also it allows space between the kicker who's running into goal versus if you're leading up to the kicker, you're bringing your defender closer to the player with the ball. So long story short, for me, as with the question I posed to you, I would probably say keep McStay out for a little bit longer. Even if he comes, even if he gets a handful of games towards the back end of the season going into the final series, I'll live with that.
Chad, were you putting him in the VFL first before he plays an AFL game?
Yes. Would you?
I think that's a must as well.
It's a different intensity, man. Like you probably need your conditioning to begin at VFL level and then build up from there. It would have to be a mandatory step, in my opinion. VFL, Ash Johnson was listed at halfback, played halfback for the first half, and then was swung forward. He collected 20 disposals and kicked 2 goals. I don't know if he's ever had more than 20 disposals at VFL or AFL level. Is this his resurgence? Obviously, it's one game. And I'm not too sure what the logic or rationale was behind starting him halfback, rolling him back into the forward line in the second half. But what I can tell you is the fact that he started halfback, you get the touches, you get familiar with the ball once again, you feel like you're finding it a bit easier. You take that confidence in the first half, and then you're swung forward in the second half, and you found the ball, and you've found your rhythm. That's got to play a significant role in him being able to kick those 2 goals in that second half. So more just I don't know if it's a question because I don't think anybody's saying let's get Ash Johnson back into the AFL right now. But interesting plays there in the VFL for Ash Johnson.
It's I actually don't mind it because you think about it, right? When he retires, we could do with another intercept mark, and I reckon Ash Johnson could potentially fill that role, right? Like you can see the way he reads the ball. You can take those high, specky marks and just generally good. I think, as you're alluding to, sometimes in the game of footy, you just need to get worked into the game. Sometimes, if you're trying to play a hit up forward and it's not working, you feel like there's pressure. Like there's always pressure to work yourself in the game, especially at that caliber of standard, right? It's always cutthroat, right? So just being able to work your way into the game, I think off the halfback could potentially be something that can be done moving forward. Get yourself in the game, just worry about beating your man and then getting those disposals that way. Could work well. Obviously, just the one game. I would have to go back and watch it. I actually didn't watch the VFL game, but definitely something to note moving forward.
Yeah, and it's funny in the preseason, he was close to the best performer all preseason. He has those couple bad games to start the year, and his confidence is shot to shit. Goes to the VFL, wasn't kicking any goals, but the VFL team decides to put him in a back line, transition into forward line. And I like that idea. When Howe does retire, whether it's this year or next year, at the very latest, I would assume, there's maybe a spot there for Ash Johnson to take. Similar size, long arms, great hops. Not too sure about his ball use just yet, but It's a very like for like, and I like that shout. That could be something that Collingwood are already considering in the very near future.
Bit of Chris Tarrant about him, huh? Can play at the
Yes,
back, go on the
not as
forward.
Jack though.
Fuck his pipes. That's
Mate.
underrated pipes. Him and what you call it? I'm blanking on his first name. Harvey from North Melbourne, Pipe Central.
Brent Harvey, Boomer.
Yeah, Boomer. Yeah, I can't believe I
Yeah,
forgot his first.
but Chris Tarrant's 6'3", 6'4". Brent Harvey's like, yeah. Anyways, I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. Okay. Last topic, Finn Macrae, another 30 disposals in the VFL, and I feel like he does that for fun. Score involvements, inside 50s, clearances, always gets 5+ tackles per game in the VFL. Is he going to be a perennial VFL success and a perennial AFL failure where he's not able to take his VFL game to the next level? Because I feel like we see some players who are able to do that at VFL level, just dominate, but then just can't take that into the AFL game.
Yeah, you'd hate to see it, but I just give him a chance, and get him in there, let him have a couple of strings of games in there. I think, look, a little bit of sample size. If you look at Richmond, Mike Hilty, obviously first game wasn't really around it too much, and then now he's working in as scoring, consistent goals for Richmond, and he's just kind of find his way. I think he was up there with the running. So I think if you're able to give these guys at least a couple of weeks to get used to the speed of the game and then work their way in, I think you've got nothing to lose. If he keeps performing the way he does at VFL level, is he really going to be learning, how much he's going to be able to develop and learn, and he might go elsewhere. So would hate to see him go somewhere else. I think just give him a little bit of chance. As we're saying, Sidebottom is a little bit out of form. Maybe we have him Finlay in, and then, go from there.
Yeah. I almost feel like the next time Finlay comes into the side, he has to start. He can't be the sub. That's my feeling. And if we're being brutally honest, I don't know if he's been given the best opportunity this year so far. I feel like if you want to give someone like Finlay Macrae a real chance, he's got to play 5 games uninterrupted where he's the starting player on the field and gets free reign, gets his licenses to do what he does best, and then we go from there. But I understand the obviously the high stakes that are I guess inherent of this game that we play. When you're the Collingwood Football Club, you're the reigning premiers, you don't really have that much leeway to trial and test all these youngsters and give them a 5-game sample size to really flex their stuff. But I think Finlay Macrae, he could hold his own. He'll get his opportunity this year. But yeah, Harvey Harrison, like I said, did well as well. So maybe Sidebottom comes out, as we've potentially pointed out that could happen. Maybe Harvey Harrison comes in as the starting winger, and then Finn Macrae is reluctantly the sub. But I guess it's better than not being in the team. But we'll see. Camps, 52 minutes, 27 seconds. Pies Eyes Podcast, episode 3. Not bad.
Not bad, James. Besides those intros at the start that we had to redo a few times, but I think got to get that black coffee in beforehand, James.
Yeah, hey, the hay fever rocked me as well. So, look, I think that's our excuse for those introductions, which you guys obviously won't see. But now you know that we struggled to get the ball rolling. I mean, it's a Sunday morning. It's 9:30 a.m. We're not dusty or anything. We had a good night in, and sometimes you start a bit slow, but we bounced back well, like Collingwood did in Anzac Day game. So some similarities there. So that's that. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoyed us waffling about, and we'll see you guys hopefully in Pies Eyes Podcast episode 4.